Global target are Tunisia, Eswatini, Cape Verde, Botswana, Comoros, Zimbabwe, Equatorial Guinea, South Africa, Mauritania, Lesotho, and Rwanda. But overall, just 4% of Africans have been fully jabbed, compared with 60% in the European Union. COVAX had planned to deliver nearly 300 million doses to Africa, but it's only been able to procure 5 million doses after the...
All right, now the Central Bank of Kenya, CBK, projects that the Kenyan economy is set to expand by 6.1% in 2021, by a further 5.6% next year. Now, CBK Governor Patrick Njoroge has based his projection on leading economic indicators alongside rebounding optimism for growth as mirrored in its market surveillance earlier this month.
The Central Bank of Kenya projects the Kenyan economy to expand by 6.1% in 2021 and by a further 5.6% next year. This is the Reserve Bank's first economy projection for the year and comes after its recent receipt and analysis of 2020 GDP data from the Kenyan National Bureau of Statistics. Growth in the period is largely expected to come from base effects after a 0.3% GDP contraction last year as a factor of the COVID-19 pandemic. The Central Bank of Kenya is expected to review its GDP outlook subsequently and after its receipt of Q1, 2 GDP data later next in October. The Central Bank of Kenya Governor Patrick Njoroge has based his projection on leading economic indicators alongside rebounding optimism for growth as mirrored in its market surveillance earlier this month. It's clear that respondents remain quite optimistic. There is a lot of optimism in the recovery, despite problems related to restriction measures and other constraints facing producers, Njoroge said.
All right, now still moving on, we head to Tanzania as the Tanzanian National Business Council, TNBC, has urged Tanzanians in the diaspora to invest at home and encourage people in countries they live in to bring their investments to Tanzania. More of the story. Speaking in a special program aired by the US-based radio Kilimanjaro, TNBC Executive Secretary Godwill Wanga said Tanzania has a friendly and pro-investment environment and that the climate for doing business has improved significantly in recent months. According to Dr. Wanga, the Executive Secretary of the Tanzania National Business Council, TNBC, Tanzania has investment and business opportunities in various areas including tourism, physical infrastructure, agriculture, health centers, rapid transit infrastructure, and business park. He called on the diaspora to cooperate with the government and invest in areas of their choice to create jobs for Tanzania's youth and contribute to the growth of the national economy. Dr. Wanga explained that big strategic projects such as the Standard Gauge Railway SGR and Julius Nyerere hydropower project are meant to create conducive investment conditions for people interested in investing in the hospitality industry. Tanzania Diaspora Hub TDH Chairman Nasa Basalama said TDH members are studying Tanzania's investment opportunities. He said Tanzania Diaspora Hub has the responsibility of making sure their members invest in Tanzania and contribute to national economic growth. Mr. Basalama commended the government for effecting helpful and favorable investment reforms and pro-business changes. Dr. Wanga explained that the big strategic projects such as the Standard Gauge Railway SGR and the Julius Speaking in a special program aired by the US-based radio to create conducive investment conditions for people interested in investing in the hospitality industry. The Tanzania Diaspora Hub TDH Chairman Nasa Basalama said TDH members are studying Tanzania's investment opportunities. He said TDH has the responsibility of making sure their members invest in Tanzania and contribute to the national economic growth. Now, Mr. Basalama commended the government for effecting helpful and favorable investment reforms and pro-business changes. Let's have a look at this story. Manjaro, TNBC Executive Secretary Godwill Wanga said Tanzania has a friendly and pro-investment environment and that the climate for doing business has improved significantly in recent months. According to Dr. Wanga, the Executive Secretary of the Tanzania National Business Council, TNBC, Tanzania has investment and business opportunities in various areas including tourism, physical infrastructure, agriculture, health centers, rapid transit infrastructure, and business park. He called on the diaspora to cooperate with the government and invest in areas of their choice to create jobs for Tanzania's youth and contribute to the growth of the national economy. Dr. Wanga explained that big strategic projects such as the Standard Gauge Railway SGR and Julius Nyerere hydropower project are meant government to create conducive investment conditions for people interested in investing in the hospitality industry. Tanzania Diaspora Hub TDH chairman Nasser Basalama said TDH members are studying Tanzania's investment opportunities. He said Tanzania Diaspora Hub has the responsibility of making sure their members invest in Tanzania and contribute to national economic growth. Mr. Basalama commended the government for effecting helpful. The crises afflicting the UK economy have sparked off talk in newspapers and among politicians of a looming winter of discontent. A reference to the wave of strike action in 1978 to 79 brought the British economy to its knees. There is even talk of stagflation, the nightmare combination of stagnant growth and high inflation. Although shortages, supply chain delays and rising food and energy costs are affecting several major economies, including the United States, China and Germany, Britain is suffering more than most because of Brexit. Specifically, the form of Brexit pursued by the UK government, which introduced stringent immigration policies and took Britain out of the EU market for goods and energy, making it much harder for British companies to hire European workers, much more costly for them to do business with the country's single biggest trading partner. It didn't have to be this way. There were other options for a future EU-UK relationship. Worker shortages, for example, were not an inevitable outcome of Brexit, nor were going it alone on energy. But in Prime Minister Boris Johnson's ideological rush to get Brexit done, amid fraught negotiations with the European Union, governments in several crucial areas, including energy, sidelined. The UK government's post-Brexit immigration system, meanwhile, was designed to reduce the numbers of unskilled workers coming to Britain and end what the government described as the country's reliance on cheap, low-skilled labour, despite a domestic unemployment rate in the region of just 5%. As the British Premier, Boris Johnson's Brexit choices are making Britain's fuel and food shortages worse. Now, the rising energy bills, higher prices and critical shortage of workers leading to food and fuel supply constraints are threatening to stall Britain's recovery from the pandemic. The crisis afflicting the UK economy has sparked off talk in newspapers among politicians and a looming winter of discontent as a reference to the wave of strike action in 1978 to 1979. All right, now let's head back to Kenya as over 253,544 jobs have been lost in Kenya amid recovery from COVID-19, and about 253,500 jobs were shed in the 3 months to March, despite the economy showing signs of recovery from COVID-19 hardships, with employees aged below 25 and above 40 bearing the brunt of the layoffs. More of this story. Data from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, KNBS, shows that the number of people in employment fell to 17.84 million between January and end of March compared to 18.09 million the previous quarter. Young people below the age of 25, mainly secondary school and college graduates, were the hardest hit by job cuts in an economic setting that is plagued by reduced hiring on the back of sluggish corporate earnings. About 292,020 jobs were held by workers below 25 years, were lost in the quarter ended March as employers recovering from COVID-19 economic fallouts hired 176,325 workers in 25 and 40 years, mostly university graduates. This is a major blow to job seekers, especially the more than 1 million young people who graduate from colleges and secondary schools in search of low-cadre positions like clerks. About 149,897 jobs held by workers aged between 40 and 60 were let go as companies reinvented themselves to survive the aftershocks of the COVID-19 pandemic and sought to cut expenses on specialized older workforce. This is an indication that corporate Kenya was not keen to keep experienced but costly staff as firms raced to preserve cash amid flat sales. The quarterly labor force survey indicates that nearly 2.495 million people were jobless at the end of March, up from 2.2944 million the same month last year, when Kenya reported its first case of COVID-19. This reflects significant business disruptions in the wake of the pandemic, which triggered losses and closure of firms, especially small enterprises. All right, now, you know the rules. Every time is tea time, and coffee is always a good idea. So anytime you feel free, you can take some tea as well. It can add something into your immune system. Now, meanwhile, according to the statistics in Kenya, about 149,897 jobs held by workers aged between 40 and 60 were let go as companies reinvented themselves to survive the aftershocks of the COVID-19 pandemic and sought to cut expenses on specialized older workforce. This is an indication that the corporate Kenya was not keen to keep the experienced but costly staff as firms race to preserve cash amid flat sales. So most probably, the Kenyan companies or the private sector actually decided to employ fresh graduates instead of the experienced workers. Reason being, the fresh graduates won't ask for a lot of money because they are still looking for that experience as a way to keep up with the business because of the continued flat sales amidst the pandemic. All right, now that brings us to the end of our foreign updates in regards to the business stories. That is all we've had for you across the borders. Meanwhile, when I do return, I have a celebrity in studio and we are going to digest more in regards to music in Uganda, how the celebrity has actually formed the music industry. Just stick around.